Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data Show. Today, we're going to talk on how to engage your organization for data transformation.
And we have a wonderful guest who has been here before and had an amazing success last time. And he's now here today again. I have the pleasure of introducing him. Nicolas has more than 20 years of experience in enterprise software, data, and analytics. He had the opportunity to lead the development and to bring to market several innovative software and data platforms across multiple industries such as telecom, bank and finance, retail, etc. In that context, Nicolas has been working globally as a strategic advisor to leading organizations on IT and data architecture to support ambitious business and digital transformation goals, with always the same focus in mind, making sure the technology serves as a business purpose and brings value. He is the founder and CEO of YOOI. YOOI is a software as a service platform to help enterprises better manage and accelerate their data and analytics strategy and optimize the business value of their data and analytics investment. Welcome, Nicola. It's so good to have you back.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Very happy to be here today with you for your morning and my afternoon, and finishing the week, on talking about culture, about value, about data, and no, that's very happy to talk to you today.
Those are our favorite topics. This is the right place for this.
Yes.
It's a great topic for a Friday as well, I think. It's a great way to end the week with something valuable, meaningful to an individual and an organization.
To sleep on it during the weekend.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, that's food for thought, hopefully, and things to reflect on how to drive the transformation, and easy to easy.
No doubt. Absolutely.
Well, let's start with the basic. How would you define data transformation?
Yeah, I think that's because I like those definitions, because sometimes people always talk about those buzzwords, data driven, data transformation, and then we don't necessarily have the same definitions. So I mean, really, everyone knows that digital transformation. It's companies need to engage on digital channels and really transform themselves to have almost as a revolution. To have either being more productive or develop new business models and address new markets and so on. And so you have all those companies that are almost digital natives, and they're also data native because that's what gives them reactivity, that's what gives them agility to make decisions and so on. But for most of the, let's say, large organizations, the ones that need to perform their digital transformation, they also need to do their data transformation because they have a lot of new practices and a lot of new things to do to be able to leverage those data. So that data transformation comes with a few challenges, like making data accessible. That's the beginning, having the right tools and skills in the teams, but also transforming the business processes and overall moving from kind of gut feeling insights mindset to based on data insights mindset. And so the data transformation is really about the ability of the organization to use the data to fuel the digital transformation. And it's probably what sometimes we call being data driven at the end, which, like we discussed last time, I don't like so much. So it would be more being value driven. So
yes.
Yeah.
So data transformation is part of the data strategy of an organization?
Yeah, the data strategy is really the plan to deliver the data transformation, more or less. So it's really linked to the business strategy. So one work with the other. So having a strong data strategy is a key to deliver value to the organization on the long term, and so to succeed on the transformation, let's say on the long run, you need to care about a lot of dimensions that are really what you want to capture in your strategy. So I have a few one. Like first one is alignment. So alignment, and making sure, for two reasons, alignment is because one is because the complexity of the organization, you need to have people moving in the same direction and not moving apart. Otherwise, you don't transform anything. And the second one is align with the business strategy, so that you make sure that whatever you do serves the business. You have a collaboration topic, which is really key because the analytics is complex. So you need to engage different people to work together to be able to deliver things. So that's really key. You have innovation, which is when I talk about innovation, it's not just new ideas, it's also an innovation mindset, because when you move from something new, you need to be able to experiment, maybe fail sometime. So you have this kind of iterative process and innovation mindset that you need to apply to be able to move. Otherwise, you have that kind of wall in front of you that's too high to go through. You need to have governance, and I know that's a topic that talks to you, because governance is about moving fast but moving safe. It's so how do
Mm-hmm.
you put the gates, how do you put the
I
control to
love
make
how
sure
you
that
put it.
it goes in a lot of directions. And you have literacy, because as always, you can't have people moving fast, collaborating and so on, if they don't know what they do, if they don't have the skills to do things. And obviously the very last one is technology, because you need tools and so on. So I put it at last because there is too much focus on technology usually in the transformation, like because we build a data lake, they will come and no problem are solved. So it's really an important level, but it comes at the end. So alignment, collaboration, innovation, governance, literacy, and technology.
Right. And you mentioned that this is great. So you mentioned that the focus is on technology. However, people are also important, correct?
Yeah.
It's harder to engage them. Why is that, and what can be done with regards to people?
Yeah, that's. I think that's the problem. Too many initiatives start by focusing on technology and not enough on people.
Hmm.
And so there was a New Vantage Partners study, that said that only 37 or 37% of the organization have achieved to be data driven.
Mm.
And so at the end, the main challenges are always the same. It's never cited to be, I don't have the right tool as the main obstacle, but more culture, skills, organization, and processes.
Hmm.
Um, and so we said delivering data analytics is not a technological challenge. It's mostly an organizational one. And so also a people one. I think one thing I mentioned last time is that to succeed, you need to deliver initiatives and data products that are actually useful, actually integrated into operational processes, so they're usable and actually adopted by users, so that they're used and not just walked around or ignored and so on. And so it's hard to engage people because of different reasons. First, there is a social perspective. There's a skills gap, as we said. The people. So when you don't know, you're afraid, so you just ignore, you work around stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what usually we call data literacy, and it's that kind of skills gap. And you have a trust gap. Because you're used to make decisions in one way, by your stuff, your gut feelings, and so how can you trust data provided by tools, by algorithms and so on? So and it's linked to literacy, but it's a different aspect. It's not just because you train people that you will achieve trust. So I look at it two different ways. And the third reason is because it's a change management topic, and there is no data transformation without evolving processes, evolving the way people work, and so without evolving the culture. And that's really, so then it's tough for people to change.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that innate resistance from within the organization on anything that you are trying to do that's new. I think we have a tendency to be like, I don't know if I want to. Heather is mentioning, truth, culture, skills, and processes, not technology, are the obstacles many times around.
Yeah, happy it reflects there.
And Nicolas, you mentioned training and not having that data literacy. You know, are there any recommendations that you have on how to have people become more data literate? And I know some people don't like that term, data literacy, but again, you're referring to how to manage, how to use, how to read data.
Yeah, so I think that there are different things. I don't think it's something you need to you should or you can approach upfront. Like I want to make people data literate. It's like you would like to make everyone mathematicians or whatever. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. Um, so again, it's a cultural issue. So the way you need to do that is to help people. It has to be very pragmatic. So it's always the same. For me, you need to start with doing how to say concrete things. Identifying concrete initiatives which users need to be brought in to be able to deliver those initiatives, and then look at what you need to do to make them succeed into that initiative. So it's really about starting from something which is very how to say pragmatic, and not looking at it from a theoretical standpoint, but more looking at it. So then you can address that change of data literacy, but more just because you'll help people using data that they trust to make decisions in their business process. So I think the challenge when you look at it as it's a right challenge, data literacy from an organization standpoint, but it's a wrong problem to solve upfront, because it's something that is it's like to say people you don't know anything and I'm going to tell you, so it's kind of frightening somehow. So you need to avoid that problem. It's more to look at it from, oh, okay, what do you need to achieve that? And then so it's a way to break also that fear of change, because it's more about, okay, how can you do something better? How can we change something because we have a new change to address on your process and so on, and work from being pragmatic and engaging people on specific initiative. I think is a key to avoid that kind of fear of change and fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Diana, from your experience with change? Any?
So what I was thinking actually is how I liked how Nicolas said that, you need to make those initiatives also visible and understandable for people, and not only theoretical. So people need to see and to understand what is happening, so they feel that they have at least a little bit of control about on the transformation or the change. Because if otherwise they are overwhelmed, they're going to become resistant, and the change is not going to happen. So it's important to make the change and to have a very concrete change management strategy around it.
Yeah.
And this again doesn't have to do with technology, right? So it's understanding the people and understanding the culture and understanding what works for the organization, what kind of change management measures are the most appropriate for the context.
Yeah.
And it's not always the same.
And to be the devil's advocate, though, I mean, technology can aid all of this. It can make everything easier, right? So yes, you need to have everything else in place, but technology is there to help you out do it more efficiently.
Yeah.
I think that's always the same. That's why I mentioned it at the end. We can't ignore technology, but we need to look at it as a solution to a problem, or an enabler to something, not just as the solution to any problem, like and because sometimes people find unexpected use to technologies, but otherwise if you just there's been so many failures with data lake initiatives just because that's an awesome tool, but just by itself, if no one knows how to use it, there is no processes in place and so on, it never worked, like in terms of massive adoption and so on, because it was not managed from a change perspective and from how you evolve the organization, how to make sure that tool is the right one for what people need to do.
Right. Like they said, the data lake became the data swamp because all those things were not in place, and they just expected the technology to just magically solve the problems without having the processes, the policies, the standards, the roles, responsibilities, everything in place to make it work better.
Yeah, or I would say to even let's say the contrary. I've seen cases where everything was in place but was so complex and so in a way of delivering anything that anytime people tried to use it, then it was like okay, even before even starting to think about doing something cool, I need to fill in too many forms or gates or whatever. So I need to digest complexity, and not so it was disproportionate in front of where the organization was and how to bring people to why they need that and why it makes sense and how to do it basically. So it was not aligned with where the organization was.
Mhm. So, Nicola, one of the main measures that we take in change management is training. Is that enough to up-level the skills? So, what are your thoughts around it?
Yeah, training is a bit like technology sometimes. It has been used like especially for data literacy. I've seen a lot of places where people have said, oh, okay, we are going to train everyone on data and then problem will be solved. So you spend a lot of time and a lot of money on training people, and it doesn't work. But like most training, it's not because it's a data literacy training, it's because it doesn't relate to anything people have to do. So so that only works when it's a good way to create awareness. So it's a lightweight training. You can just tell stuff to people, but then obviously afterwards, honestly, beyond awareness, usually there is not much that goes out of that. So I'm usually very wary and very careful with large training initiatives up front
Mm-hmm.
and on. Um, and so for me, a good training is always, and I've done that for my teams, over a year, when it directly connects to a concrete challenge people have, because then and a change that they are already facing, not a change they will have tomorrow. Initially they need to struggle a bit just before giving the training, because then it has a tremendous impact, because they have a real understanding of the challenges they have. And so what you bring in front raise questions, interactions, and so on, and not just passive, listening to a smart guy or a woman who is going to uh,
Mhm.
tell them stuff. The second criteria is that they need to be able to, and it's linked to the first one, is to put it in practice instantly afterwards, like the week after or the day after, and whatever it has, so that really it's something fresh and they can assimilate and consolidate just after. And obviously, the third one is that they need to be motivated, because if you just force people into a training, you've been to courses you didn't follow. I've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
just
you all have, I'm sure.
you are, and you just check the remark at the end. But did you listen anything? No, especially now with remote, you do
Oh,
a remote training,
yeah.
and then you watch your phone or you watch a video on YouTube or whatever. So I think those three things are really important. So otherwise, you create frustration from everyone. You create frustration from people who had to do a training they don't care about. You create frustration because it's too theoretical. They have no idea what to do with it. So the day they need it, they forgot everything about it. And frustration from the executive because they spent a lot of money for nothing. So at the end, so that, yeah, using training the right way, the right moment, and in targeted way is really key, so that it's not just a waste of time and money and effort and motivation and etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I Yeah, I like that.
Yes, yes, and it's a great, let's say, difference, right, in teaching something theoretical, something for a future change,
Yeah.
and teaching something that is applicable to the immediate reality
Yeah.
of the training. It makes a huge difference, and we all feel it somehow. But having it said it out loud, it's really really relevant and insightful. So thank you for this.
But Nicola, we've seen this a lot of times that organizations have a one-time investment, maybe in training or technology or um, up-leveling those skills, but it's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think they should do to sustain that change and perpetuate that initiative?
Yeah, I think that's really linked to what I started to say before, is that it has to be part of an ongoing data strategy, basically. So that what we know is that change is a long process, and whatever we want to do, and the reason why people have done a front program, sometimes is just because they want to rush and say, yeah, in 18 months we'll be data driven, it's awesome, and most of the time it's just not possible, because takes time to engage people, so you need to accept that it takes time. And so you need to have it's part of the DASH strategy, because in the DASH strategy you will have that list of okay, what initiative I'm going to deliver and how is it going to serve purpose. That's really important, because then the second thing, you need to have that bias for action. I talked about this innovation mindset and so on, is that it's not just a strategy is not just something, I think we discussed last time, that you put on the board for the executive committee. It's a concrete way to deliver value progressively, and that notion of progressively is very important, because then you will engage people in there on, and not only on doing a data stuff, but on doing something that has a value and that will change the process, but you have concrete reasons, and you can align the individual's objectives in that context, because it's linked to the enterprise objective. You have the the goal of the project, which is actually a goal to do something better, a process better, sell more, less churn, better maintenance, whatever. And so then you can also align the objective. So then there is value for everyone. There is value for the individual, in terms of career, in terms of next steps, and etc. So he has a good reason to do it, a good reasons for changing, and so on, and that. So the strategy is actually the way to make it something long term, because you have your path to deliver value. Into that, you can derivate the path to engage people, and because if you start to deliver your initiative everywhere, and so so it's really important to have that. So a clear direction, concrete deliveries, and iterative ones. And sometimes I listened to someone saying you need some initiatives that deliver the wow factor, so that also it gives good leverage for the next one to say, oh yeah, it's so cool. Maybe if I had something similar in my domain, it would be great, and align people. And around that, something I talked a lot is you need communities, to build communities. And why? It's because you do trainings, obviously, you do your trainings because it's a way to upskill people, but it's hard to scale that. So building communities also a way around different expertise, around different people, then to have the organization help itself scale, and diffuse. So I like a lot communities, because that's a way to be more organic. That's a way to also put some people in the sunlight, because if they're leading a community or animating some expertise in the company, it's also good for, again, aligning their what's in it for them with what's in it for the company. And it helps then growing much faster, because the more you grow, the more you have people who can help you diffuse that. And it's and usually also it's human, it's not just going to the training platform and following your whatever awareness. It's also if you have a problem with Python or with Tableau or with your data pipeline or with your data quality, having that kind of community that you can get help from and is really powerful. So it's kind of the transversal way for the rest of it, but that's if you have those directions and you have those organizations in place, then you can start building something that will be more resilient in the organization and stage by stage infuse that culture, basically.
I like that. Do you think that communities should stay with stakeholders only within the organization, or try and engage with others from other?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't think it has to be purely internal. I think it's important to have an internal one, because you have some topics that might be sensitive or very tied to your own business. But I know a lot of also outside communities that work great. We work with one in France, where they do data scientist communities. So when they try to work on some techniques and so on. So and it's really profitable sometimes to find ideas, from other people when it's not too sensitive, at least. But finding ways to build bridges between communities work in a lot of different directions, because it can be by skill, but they can be by business domain, by vertical, etc., etc. But it's a way to not only have that kind of top down or bottom up things coming in, or just deploying one more training program and so on. It's much more practical again.
Right. And to your point, training can do so much. If you have a person or a group of people, a community to address your questions after the training or between training sessions, someone that is from your organization, someone that is not, you know, a trainer, your colleague, a champion, as we sometimes call them, is very, very powerful. You know, to have someone, one of your peers, who advocates for the change,
Mm.
and to be able to, you know, address them a question and ask for help or even bring suggestions, is very, very powerful. It's easy, and as you said, it's more organic.
Yeah. And sometimes you can even identify some training needs out of that.
Mm.
So new training
Yeah.
needs. So
Yes.
it
Yes.
gives more, how to say, surface to your change program. Yeah.
Does. And if that those suggestions come from the actual people who are impacted by the change, they feel listened to as well, right?
Yeah. Definitely, yes.
Right. So, what would be your recommendation on those best practices for just a really great, successful start in this journey?
Um, yeah. So I said, yeah, the word journey is key because it's something that takes time. So you need to build things to go through the journey. So it's really a program. It will take time. It has to be progressive, and that's the first thing you need to account. So the good way to start is to know that it will take time. So
Mm-hmm.
but then I think so. Maybe I will repeat myself from the beginning. But the very first thing, which is really really important, is to have a good value driven data strategy. So you need to know how you want to set, or how you want to provide value, and have a progressive view on that, but also concrete ways to measure those outcomes and to communicate them. Sorry.
And for that,
Because
we really encourage everybody to come listen the previous recording that we had with Nicolas, where we talk about that very topic.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
a great
that's
discussion.
and that's the key, because that's the only way to engage and align everyone's organization that this is what we need to do, and so on. So the second thing is, and from there you will derive a lot of things, because then the second thing is you need to have a good maturity assessment, just to know where you are, just to know where the gaps are, and what you have, what you don't have, where you're good, what you're not good, if you have the skills, if you have the technology, if you have the tools, the processes, and so on. The third one is you need to have a CDO to lead the change. I think if you don't,
Mm.
not understand, I don't have one, to lead and conduct the transformation. Because this is how you can make the link with the executive committee. Because to lead the transformation, you need to have, this kind of leadership engagement. That the key, because it's how you get the budget, but it's also how you get the alignment and the leverage, and etc. etc. And so the CDO is really key to make the link with executive business leaders, align effort, ensure support, and so on. So that's what is going to conduct the change. And in that context, then you need to identify, again, concrete things to deliver, and work from there. Not look at it as a big front. If you can't deliver value quickly and iteratively, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back end, you need to deploy the foundation, but that will support that, by doing the initiative. You will drag, what do I need in terms of governance, what do I need in terms of data platform, what do I need in terms of training, what do I need in terms of etc. And all of that, I'm not under estimating them, because caring about, again, moving fast, how you do the process, how you experiment, how you stop, how you start things, but also moving safe, making sure you don't take risk in terms of privacy, cyber security, ethics, environmental and social responsibility. All of that is really important. But if they're built to build progressively to support the actual things you have to deliver, then you can build them in a smart and lean way that will help you move,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not go in the way of delivering value. So I mean, you need to have that big plan. it's always I don't have the expression, but it's like think big, act small,
That's a great
which
expression,
which
actually.
is the important stuff. And so you need to think big because this is what gives you the direction and alignment, and helps aligning the planet and everything. But then being moving fast and having everything that support that is really key. And when
Hmm.
you do that, you will create, afterwards, people will have new ideas, new innovation, and it will come at some point, that people will have that mindset of creating new stuff. But
So, Nicola, you mentioned the CDO. Now, I'm seeing quite a few organizations that want to be data driven that don't have a CDO in place. Would you say that having a CDO is optional or something that's crucial?
for me, it's crucial because you need some. I mean, if it's not a CDO, you need to have the CEO or the someone being. I mean, it doesn't have to have that name, but you have someone who needs to have that role in the organization at the
Hmm.
C level, because it's a holistic change of the organization. It's not just something for IT people to hire a data scientist and data engineers and bring value. Some companies attempted that, like hired a bunch of data scientists, put them in a data lab and say, "Hey, guys, deliver value," and then and then they left. And or after some time, because it was tough, no one answered to them to get value, to get data, and no one understood what they were doing. And then some people were complaining that there was a diverse of data, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So you need to drive this change from the high with a kind of holistic view on everything. So it's a tough job, I don't know if you saw there is a survey saying that I think the average tenure of data analytics of CDOs is 18 months, I think, in companies. So it represents the difficulty of that job of aligning, the committees, business leaders, and the change. So really, they're here to drive the transformation from a business standpoint. So it's not just an IT or a technical thing. They have a lot of role in the coordination and so on. So yes, so the CDO is key to be
Mhm.
the conductor, of the
Hmm.
of change. And I've made two illustrations I've seen, of what happens without a CDO. One with that is everywhere. Each business line has their own stuff going on. Sometimes some succeed, some don't succeed, but depending on the skills they have. And then most of the time they struggle with skills because they don't have those skills in their business organization. So they try to get it and hire contractors and don't know how to manage them. They hire people, but they have a hard time to keep them and so on. But most probably what's happening is that also they create a huge risk to the organization in terms of governance. And huge one. I've seen stuff where you don't want to see them so much, because you have unsupervised tools where you put very sensitive data, and so you create yourself in a whole of difficult situations.
Yeah.
So that is a kind of thing that you need to tackle with a CDO. And I've seen another one which is almost the reverse, is that data being a pure IT function. And then you have, the other stuff is that you build tools, and it's with a good intention. You build tools and platforms and foundations, but then
Yeah.
no one is working on engaging business and doing that. So same way it's stuff. So CDO is here to to bridge those gaps. I think there was a question of bridging gaps, so it's a key. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a few follow-up questions that I want to take here, but Diana, you wanted to mention something.
Yes, I wanted to say that this is really music to my ears, because from a change management perspective, surveys show that one of the biggest factors of success in change as an organization is when you have sponsorship. So when you have a person higher up to support the change and to be the face of the change, that is one of the biggest success factors in when it comes to change and transformation. So the fact that you mentioned it just is again a reiteration how important is that, and I'm sure that that's exactly what you saw in your clients every time, that when there was support from an authority figure,
Mm-hmm.
then the change happened much faster, much easier, and much more in a sustainable way. That when change actually lasted.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's I really agree that it's critical because if you, I mean, for me, it's critical because it's with the sponsorship that you create the alignment for people, and the fact that the goal of the organization are aligned with the way you can um, have people have something for people in it. So, and if it's not aligned, then you ask people to go against their individual interest for the sake of the organization, and they fight against the organization basically without that executive support. So that's why it's really key because you can't yeah.
Sahar is mentioning and confirming support to the change is very important. Love it. Absolutely. You're getting lots of love for your comments here.
I'm sending love back.
So I wanted to take a question here from Zed. And Zed is mentioning, and we talked about this before, Nicola, on how you were expected to push the data scientist into a lab and expect that value will come out. So, and that's what he's wondering. How do you evaluate the bridge from data analytics to business real life impact? Because if it's not mistaken, he's realized that most of the students, most of the data analysts, data scientists, they have that knowledge, they have that skill on how to best do data science, data analytics, but still there's a gap to create business impact with what they do.
Yeah, it's because in many cases they still have a technical capability, which is I know how to use those tools, which are machine learning, data, analytics, and so on, but they don't have the business understanding and they don't have the business expertise and so on. So you can look at data set for years and apply a lot of different smart models, but if you don't understand the problem you need to solve, so on. So that's why I really insist on the need to identify initiatives where you want to have people collaborate around that, because that's a key thing to address that challenge, because then you put together across a very on a yeah for a very well defined goal, and that would be a measurable goal, obviously, a business problem to solve. So you have that problem to solve, and then you will put on the same room, even if it's a virtual one, the business experts and the data scientists and the data engineers and people in charge of the governance, everyone, to understand okay, what does it mean and how they can collaborate to deliver that value and make that bridge. So then the way to measure that is just because they will be able to deliver, and not just someone working on the and I've seen that a lot. I've seen people saying, "Oh, I've done a new model that optimized for something," and then super, but that's nothing like my actual problem as a business user. So you need to understand the problem I need to solve, not just give me random numbers on top of random data.
Yeah. John is also mentioning here that isn't the question change to what? You should always be like, sure, we want to change, but change to what and why, right? It should be a day in the life where operational and strategic decisions are seamlessly informed with differential insights from well-created data, and there's a data literacy as a core competency of every employee. So, absolutely agreeing with everything that we're talking about here.
Yes. So, Nicolas, you have vast experience in data transformation, and my question is, how does your company, how does YOOI help companies on the data transformation journey?
Yeah, so um, we said before the CDO needs to have a holistic view of what's happening in the organization, and in most organizations it's tough because you have a lot of different pieces, divisions, departments, maybe brands or countries and whatever, using different tools or having different processes and having different things. So then animating the transformation and engaging all those different people who might have different agendas or different things and just tracking progress of everything is very complex and very time consuming and etc. So we've built YOOI to really help CDOs drive the data transformation, and make that life a bit easier in that sense, to bring that view. So with YOOI, the goal is to be able to have that end-to-end, view on all initiatives, all assets, and how they are connected. So connection between assets, initiatives, and the business strategy, and or the contribution in terms of value. So, and we can say 360 degrees, because it's that kind of business lineage from assets to business value, but also from how do you identify or demands or ideas to how do you measure value in production and then reuse those things. So having that holistic view is really important. And then it's connected also to all the tools you have underneath, so your project management tools, your data quality tools, your machine learning tools, your cost management, your time tracking, and so on. Even if it's heterogeneous within your company, so at the end you can really have the cockpit of your data transformation that creates a bridge between your data and technical teams and the rest of the organization, management control, risk management, business users, and the executive committee. And you have that place where you don't have to drag your business users anymore into a lot of different technical tools.
Yeah.
I heard sometime someone said to me, "Yeah, but if they want to know, everything's in Jira." So yeah, I mean, I doubt someone is going to go there and understand anything about the actual progress of the program. So it's not about Jira as an issue. No, I'm not, but it's just that it's a wrong tool to communicate anything to outside of the team, basically. So it's just a good operational tool and not the one that will answer those questions.
Absolutely. And I think that's the challenge, or one of the challenges that organizations have, from my experience at least, that you have all these different tools and they're all, fit for their purpose. Sure, they might do a great job, but then you don't have that, an entire view of how everything goes together, and having that lineage back to the value and what the business tried to achieve and how it ties with the data and all the different projects and managing the projects. And YOOI, I feel, really brings everything together.
Yeah, that bridge is really something that many companies are struggling with, because then you have so many things happening, and that's really key to drive that culture, because then you have a way where even people can look at what's happening. You have, where is your list of initiative? Where is the list of how it helped that other department? Where is the list of but in which business context is that data used? If you look in the data catalog, for example, you will only have a view that is sometimes too technical to understand that. You have your technical lineage, but does it tell you what is that data used for from a business standpoint? And because that's also an aspect of building trust, it's understanding where it's used, and not technically speaking. And so all those dimensions, of bringing tangible outputs is really important, and that makes it's really a game changer, for companies who use YOOI, because you really scale your program at a different level, because you stop chasing information, and you it eases a lot of things, and helps a lot with the engagement.
Ravid has a question. What do you see the future of analytics in the next 2-3 years, especially for a company that would adopt YOOI as part of their technology stack?
Oh, that's a tough question, Ravit. Well, the future, I mean, I think most of the change today with one way I look at it is that we are kind of a plateau in terms of new technology. There is a lot of things that came in terms of AI, machine learning, the data platform business, and so on. So it's more about, for me, the next 2-3 years is more about the enterprise to digest that and do that shift into making those capabilities, those not capabilities, tools or technical things, a capability of the enterprise. Something that, so being able to digest that and digest what it means in terms of organization, in terms of processes, and so on. So the real challenge for now is really around that. I was at the conference last week, and many CEOs I met were disappointed by the conference, saying, "I don't see so many new things," and so on. Say, yeah, but it's weird what you say, because there's not so many new things, Some people have been saying the same things over and over for years, but the main question is, why didn't you apply any of that then in your organization? And so the real question is, what can we do to break those things in terms of transformation, and why doesn't that compute in terms of really moving forward and stopping having
Yeah.
purely technical led initiative, purely upfront training programs, because we know it doesn't work, but people continue to do them. So that's a big thing. So I think for me, the future of analytics is making them a business capability is the main focus, and probably where enterprises are going to focus.
Yeah. I was talking to Scott Taylor the other day, the Data Whisperer,
Mm.
and I was mentioning something similar that, I feel like a lot of the articles out there, they're still about kind of the same things, and things that to me they're so obvious because I've been hearing them for 10 years, and I've been trying to improve on those things, such as, oh, here's how you need to do data transformation, data
Mm.
digitalization, here's how you should solve data quality issues. And Scott said something that was obvious, and such as, yeah, but you'd be surprised how many people are not following those best practices, or they're not even aware of them, even though they might be 10 years old or more. So
Yeah, that's and probably there is a change for for the industry to work on that. And I think one of the things is that sometimes and that's why I try to insist on pragmatic things, because sometimes they've been too theoretical. True, but then you look at it, it looks great, but then what do you bring for how do you start tomorrow? And so I think that being pragmatic, starting small, doing stuff, moving forward, iterating. So both having that direction, where you want to go, but doing small steps and that iterative way is critical. And I think that's the thing people enterprises need to unlock, and not be stuck in what I call sometimes analysis paralysis. Look at it, you want to go there, but then you get stuck in a loop for years, and no one move, and except frustration when nothing grows. Nothing grows.
Coming back to that question of the next 2-3 years, I want to point the audience here to your maturity assessment, to just measure where they are in their maturity level for the data analytics value management, because I think it would really give them an idea of where they stand, and what steps they should take in order to go to the next level, so to speak. So I'll post this in the comments as well for everybody to see and access, and you can take it at your own time and pace whenever you please.
Yes, it's a really, really powerful tool. And in order to illustrate a little bit better YOOI's approach, do you have any maybe success stories from your clients or your customers that you would like to share?
Oh yeah, we have one. We we did a presentation last week with one of our earliest customers, Orange, at the Gartner Summit. And I think that's really what they're doing. They're really building a large, they call it acceleration program, for for data and AI and so on. And they really rely on YOOI to animate the program and be the cockpit for the whole transformation. If everyone is interested in more details on that, I'm happy to have a private session also to walk them a bit more into that program, into what kind of change they had, and how we were working with them on that. So that's a great story beneath that in terms of change. And again, most of that is not it's not a technical challenge. It's really an alignment issue in the organization, making sure you focus on the right things, making sure you deliver value, making sure the risk aspect is really important in their context. Because you have companies who really don't want to be in the news for unethical or privacy issues or
Oh, yes.
or things like that. And so then making sure you cover everything on that aspect still by allowing a lot of innovation is really key. And again, move fast but move safe is something that is so important for me.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Nicolas.
Thank you very, very much, Nicola, for
Thank
all
you.
your insights, for everything that you do, for educating us, and also for sharing what how YOOI makes the world a better place. Uh, thank you, everyone, for being here as well, and for for your questions and for being engaged too.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Jordan, there for the discussion. Always very enjoyable and insightful for me. And so, don't say to reach out for a question. And thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, definitely follow Nicola on LinkedIn.
Yes, and don't forget about the offer for a private session for more
Yeah,
information as well.
anytime.
And have a beautiful, beautiful weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.